Hello, my name is Darkmoon Doll, also known as Trina. That's my real name, but this channel is called Darkmoon Doll. So today I want to talk to you guys about this very tremendously popular holiday known as 4th of July. Today is the 4th for me, this day that I'm making this video. And I did say on my Instagram that I was going to do a video about the 4th of July, the real true history of the 4th of July. I only learned bits and pieces when I was in school, in history class, and we were supposed to just take that as truth. But I knew that there was something missing within the history that's presented to me in school, in that school setting. That's probably why I didn't do so great in school, because I had a hard time concentrating on what the teacher was saying when I felt like it didn't pertain to me, or that I really wasn't a part of history. My nationality wasn't really an important part of history. So let me read to you this article that I found, and it's a recent article from just yesterday, and as the name of the website is The Atlantic. So the name of the article is When the 4th of July Was a Black Holiday. After the Civil War, African Americans in the South transformed Independence Day into a celebration of their newly won freedom. Let's see what they have to say about this. I haven't even read it yet. I found it and I thought, this would be something to read and then, comment about it later on and see what you guys think. So here we go. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? Famed black abolitionist and former slave Frederick Douglass posed this question before a large, mostly white crowd in Rochester, New York on July 5th, 1852. It is a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim, Douglass explained, adding that he felt much the same. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. So I did find that that actual speech, and I don't know if I can read that now, though. It's a lot to it, but you can look it up, though. You might be interested in reading that. A little over a decade later, however, African Americans like Douglass began making the glorious anniversary their own. I don't think he made the anniversary his own. He was saying that it wasn't his. It didn't belong to him. What? After the end of the Civil War in 1865, the nation's 4 million newly emancipated citizens transformed Independence Day into a celebration of black freedom. The 4th became an almost exclusively African American holiday in the states of the former Confederacy, until white Southerners, after violently reasserting their dominance of the region, snuffed these black commemorations out. Before the Civil War, white Americans from every corner of the country had annually marked the 4th with feasts, parades, and copious quantities of alcohol. A European visitor observed that it was almost the only holy day kept in America. Black Americans demonstrated considerably less enthusiasm, and those who did observe the holiday preferred, like Douglass, to do so on July 5th to better accentuate the difference between the high promises of the 4th and the low realities of life for African Americans, while also avoiding confrontations with drunken white revelers. Yet the tables are turned by July 4th, 1865, at least in the South. Having lost a bloody 4-year war to break free from the United States and defend the institution of slavery, Confederate sympathizers had little desire to celebrate the 4th now that they were back in the Union and slavery was no more. White people, wrote a young woman in Columbia, South Carolina, shut themselves within doors. African Americans, meanwhile, embraced the 4th like never before. From Washington, D.C. to Mobile, Alabama, they gathered together to watch fireworks and listen to orators recite the Emancipation Proclamation, the Declaration of Independence, and the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery when it was ratified in late 1865. As we document in our new book, Denmark Vesey's Garden, Slavery and Memory in the Cradle of the Confederacy, the most extraordinary festivities were held in Charleston, South Carolina, the majority black city where Southern secession and the Civil War had begun. At the 1865 commemoration in Charleston, one speaker noted the altered meaning of the holiday for black Americans who could at last bask in the sunshine of liberty. The martial displays at this and subsequent celebrations underscored his point. Each year, thousands of black South Carolinians lined up early to watch African American militia companies march through city streets, led by mounted officers, some of whom were ex-slaves. These black companies were often named for abolitionists and other black heroes. The 1876 4th of July parade included the Lincoln Rifle Guard, the Attucks Light Infantry, the Douglas Light Infantry, and the Garrison Light Infantry. The Charleston parades typically ended at White Point Garden, a beautiful park at the base of the city peninsula, where enormous crowds bought peanuts, cakes, fried fish, and sassafras beer from vendors camped out in shady spots. The whole colored population seemed to have turned out into the open air, reported the Charleston Daily News on July 5, 1872. And the gardens were so densely thronged that it was only with the utmost difficulty that locomotion was possible amid the booths, stalls, and sightseers. Throughout the South, freed women were conspicuous participants in 4th of July celebrations, pushing back against the gender and, in many cases, class barriers that relegated them to the sidelines of Reconstruction politics. The domestic workers and washerwomen of the Daughters of Zion and the Sisters of Zion, two benevolent societies in Memphis, Tennessee, marched in parades each year. The 1875 parade featured a carriage carrying a queen for the day, a striking claim to the respectability whites routinely denied black women. At Charleston's White Point Garden, freed women joined freed men in annual performances of songs and dances, including one called the Tulaloo, that had subversive meaning. Let me have something to drink. I got some sparkling soda, pink grapefruit, generic Winco. Where was that? Excuse me. So yeah, they were singing a song called Tulaloo that had subversive meaning. About 24 participants, even split between men and women, formed a ring into which one of the female dancers would move while the other sang and clapped. Go hunt your lover, Tulaloo. Go find your lover, Tulaloo. They urged the lady in the center, who eventually chose a suitor to join her. The Tulaloo allowed ex-slaves to poke fun at the elite courtship rituals of their former masters while also engaging in raucous celebration of their own emancipation. In 1876, 50 groups danced the Tulaloo from early morning till after midnight. The dance was so popular among the freed population in Charleston, in fact, that Tulaloo eventually became shorthand for the 4th of July there. So let's go back up here. In Charleston and elsewhere, the whites deeply resented their former slaves, turning the 4th into a commemoration of black liberty. What a dreadful day it was, complained one Charleston planter in a letter to his daughter. A local merchant lamented in his journal that the nation's holiday had become a nigger day, nigger procession, nigger dinner and balls and promenades, and scarcely a white person seen in the streets. Even some northern whites could not abide what they saw. At the 1865 festivities in Mobile, federal troops from Illinois and Indiana were overheard wishing newly freed slaves dead. Yep, it's fucked up. And I don't even like saying that, the N-word, that it's just fucked. Anyway, and people think they could change the meaning of it by adding a H to the end of it instead of ER. It's all the same word, really. Anyway, they got their wish in part in the decade to come as 4th of July celebrations became more politically charged affairs. Republican candidates and office holders played a prominent role in the festivities in the 1870s, much to the consternation of white Democrats, who used some commemorations as an opportunity to reclaim their power through force of arms. On July 4th, 1875, a white mob broke up a Republican rally in Vicksburg, Mississippi, killing a black deputy sheriff. The next year, in the village of Hamburg, South Carolina, anger over a black militia parade on the 4th boiled over into a full-blown riot that left at least 7 African Americans dead at the hands of white vigilantes. The Hamburg massacre helped conservatives wrest control of local and state governments from the biracial Republican Party that fall, making South Carolina one of the final 3 southern states to be returned to the Democratic fold. In the years that followed, as white Southerners began implementing segregationist laws and customs, they squashed official black celebrations of the 4th. Beginning in 1881, Charleston city leaders pushed Tulaloo to parks further and further away from downtown until finally, in 1886, they succeeded in removing it from the peninsula altogether. African American families and friends continued to meet in more informal gatherings in the city. But by the early 1900s, both Charleston and Atlanta had forbidden vendors from setting up food stalls along the streets where black residents had long congregated on the 4th. The African American, noted a Memphis newspaper, now marked the holiday by going way off by himself, celebrating behind closed doors in black churches and cultural institutions or with family. As they moved black commemorations from public spaces, white Southerners deployed racist tropes to question black affection for the holiday. The Atlanta Constitution declared July 4th, 1901, that African Americans seemed a little hazy as to why they actually celebrated the 4th. One shiny black-faced old darky said he recognized they celebrated just 'cause hit was watermelon season, and to the average brother in black, that is reason quite sufficient. Oh no. That's fucked. Oh my god. Beneath the ridicule was something more serious, a concerted effort to delegitimize black claims to the holiday. African Americans did not observe the 4th, white critics sneered, out of a sincere sense of patriotism or an accurate understanding of what the day meant. After all, they insisted the 4th of July did not apply to black Americans. It neither represented their freedom nor testified their status as people worthy of equal citizenship. In 1902, white Atlantans completed their commemorative coup with an elaborate 4th of July program. A children's chorus sang 3 patriotic songs: Dixie, The Star-Spangled Banner, and America. A parade of local dignitaries, among them both Confederate and Union veterans, wound through the city. The nation's birthday was back where it belonged, in the hands of true Americans, in quotation marks, true Americans. So, that this patriotic display honored men who had fought to destroy the United States did not bother local whites. On the contrary, erasing the contradiction was necessary. By the turn of the century, white Americans everywhere gave in to the lure of sectional reconciliation. Union and Confederate veterans, for instance, buried the hatchet in reunions that emphasized the bravery of all combatants and avoided any reference to slavery or the legacy of emancipation. Reframing who could rightfully celebrate Independence Day proved a critical part of this reconciliation process, helping paper over regional differences in the service of a unifying national white supremacy. In the Jim Crow South, where segregation, disfranchisement, and racial lynching were the order of the day, the message was clear: African Americans were unfit for the fruits of freedom as they were for the 4th of July. Once again, as Frederick Douglass had said a half-century earlier, black Americans were not included within the pale of their nation's birthday. There we go. 4th of July. Were you ever told this when you were in elementary school, when you were in junior high, when you were in high school? Did your parents tell you any of this? Of course they didn't. Because there's only one side of the story being presented to the mass population. These are the kind of, this is the kind of stuff that really bothers me. They want you to believe in just one thing, one point of view. And that's how it is in public schools. At least that's been my experience. Is that you only get one side of the story. You don't get both sides of the story. And Frederick Douglass was pissed off as fucking hell, I'm sure. I read a part of that speech that they were talking about before I found this today. But I was debating on whether I would read that or read an article, so I decided to read this article. But you can look him up and find that, that speech that he did. So I hope this helps enlighten you guys into what exactly this holiday is really about and what you're celebrating when you're barbecuing and you're like getting drunk or whatever. What are you really celebrating? Are you celebrating the independence of America or whatever? What are you really celebrating? You know, I think people should be more aware of these holidays that they're celebrating instead of just going with the flow and just doing it because Aunt May's done it for a decade. You know what I mean? Made that potato salad or whatever and barbecued a whole like pig or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, please just think about what it is you're celebrating and realize that there's a lot of these holidays that don't take too kindly to everybody. You know? So thank you for joining me today for today's show. I also wanted to put in here about my experience with fireworks and why I don't really like them that much. As a kid, I didn't like loud noises. I didn't like really flashy lights. I didn't like a lot of crazy shit going on. I didn't like that. Especially didn't like really loud booming noises. And you know, it just was like, it felt like this one day and they were letting off fireworks and all this kind of stuff. What is all that about? And I could never get a clear answer from any adult around what it was all about. Oh, we just do that every day, you know. So you go into elementary school and they tell you the same thing. I really don't like those kind of noises, those booming noises. So I'm a military vet and I have PTSD. And that kind of stuff doesn't excite me. I mean, the fireworks look cool or whatever. The colors, you know, are pretty exciting or whatever. But the sounds that go along with it, it just doesn't do much for me. And sometimes people just get really crazy. And animals are very much affected by it. Squirrels, birds, dogs, cats, especially cats. My cat hates them. So I must be part cat because I don't like them. I don't like the loudness of them. And people get a little more careless and a lot more like, whatever. It's, you know, I'm going to set off some fireworks and set some fires. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get really hyped up on it. I don't. Because it's a holiday. It just seems like a holiday that was created and then it got hijacked. And then the meaning was changed from it. Because, oh, you know, you black people, you're not celebrating it correctly. You know, you're supposed to be more patriotic. Patriotic my fucking ass, you know? Why are we supposed to be patriotic? Look at how we've been treated for all these years. Give me a fucking break. Alright, that's my say on it. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I'm not in for like someone to debate me and tell me how wrong I am. You know, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm not a historian. You know, but just from personal experience, this holiday can get really crazy. I've seen people come out with guns and shit, you know, shooting in the air. I'm a patriot. I'm patriotic. I'm an American and all this stuff, and coming out all crazy and stuff. People eating way too much food or whatever. So anyway, alrighty guys, be safe out there, and thanks for subscribing to my channel. Thanks for the likes and shares, and thank you for your kind comments. Yeah, leave your comments down below. I'm not up for arguing with anyone, to tell you the truth. I'm not. And someone telling me I'm wrong or whatever, or calling me the N-word or whatever. You know, it's a waste of my time to look at shit like that, so. Yeah, so if you'd like to donate to this channel, support this channel, you could donate $1 or more to my PayPal, which is kdaddytmama@comcast.net. And that money goes towards buying a new camera, keeping the lights on in this house, keeping the water going, the bills and all that, and eventually saving up money to have our own land and grow our own food and build our own homes. I only mention this because people ask how can I support this channel. So if you don't want to donate to my PayPal, it's okay. Alright, it's just an option. So yeah. Alrighty guys, take care of yourselves and be aware of these holidays that you're celebrating. really do your research and don't just follow it blindly like you're some sheep or something. But I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. But I just really like to know what it is I'm celebrating before I celebrate it. You know what I mean? Have more background history on it instead of just doing it blindly because everybody's done it for centuries. You know, that's not a good idea to go that route for me, at least for my spiritual path. Alrighty, guys, take care. Brightest blessings to you all, and I'll see you soon.